funds are being raised for the children's hospitals, St. Augustine and the Montreal Children's Hospital. That's this Saturday. So, anyways, now...
Sunday. Sunday.
Oh, the closing party, and there was some doubt about this because actually on the club calendar as of this morning, it was showing it was on the 26th, but it's actually on the 19th. And we wait further word from the club on the details of whether there's an award ceremony at the beginning of the has not been explained yet. But that is the club's closing party, so that's on Friday the 19th of April.
So Jim, curling for kids, Sunday.
Sunday.
You said Saturday.
Yes, Sunday the 7th.
I don't know why there was nothing going on.
I would like to introduce our guest speaker for the day, who is well known to many of you. He was a curler here for many years, and he still retains his allegiance to the club. Studiously avoided and looks at our website, I'm sure, and keeps on top of everything. And he's got a very interesting hobby, and he's going to tell us about it today. So without further ado, I would introduce John Gallop to you.
Woo!
I'm going to talk from up front here so you can look at me and the slides. And in the process of walking up here, I'm going to introduce a good friend that I met in Ottawa, sitting beside me, Gary Smith. She is actually from Toronto, and I'm from Montreal, and we met in the same place. And she's been a very good travel companion. All right. I joined the club in 1996. Curled for 24 years. My last game was on March the 13th, in the year 2000. The club, I've told that story, I love it, but I told it the last time I was here. The club closed the next day, and that was the end of my curling career. The last time I was here was the 12th of October, 2 days before I moved to Ottawa. And I retained such good memories of this place. And I brought Gary along because I wanted her to see my old home and the art and the decor and the classic nature of this place. All right, I'm here to talk about Postcards. And for those of you who didn't read the announcement, I was a part-time postcard dealer for over 20 years, and I have lots of tales, some of which I think will surprise you when you see it on the screen. I'm going to start by saying that when I was a kid, and there are a lot of gray hairs here too, in the 40s and 50s, every kid I knew had a hobby of some kind. Now that's no longer true. How many people here had a hobby? Look at the hands go up. Now, the next thing is, what did you collect?
Stamps.
Stamps. Matchboxes. Any other ideas here?
Hats. Baseball hats.
Coins. What? No, but I was going to make that observation actually, that girls did not have the same attraction to collecting. The only thing I can think of is Barbie dolls, but Barbie dolls really started as a toy, not as a collectible. It, of course, has become a collectible. But many of the old-time hobbies are declining, seriously. And in the National Post, just 10 days ago, there's this heading, Hobbies Collecting Dust. Yeah. And it's kind of a negative story. But I want to tell you about a hobby that I found kind of by accident that endures. And I think you'll understand why when I'm finished. All right. To start with postcards. The postcard, well, first of all, the postage stamp era began in, I think, 1851. Some of the stamp collectors here will correct me if I'm wrong. Because what happened before that was that if you wanted to send a message by a courier to a neighbor or wherever, it was the recipient that had to pay to get it. And the advantage of the penny postcard by the Royal Mail in Britain changed it around, and the sender paid the post. Now, postcards didn't exist. It was originally an envelope-style letter, but in the 1980s, the government started to use the mails to communicate with the community, with the country. But there were some the introduction of the commercial postcard really began in the 1890s. And at that point, well, I'm going to start to show you some pictures. It was called the Pioneer Era, anything from about 1895 to 1902. And this is an example of well, I may have to, but I'm all right for the moment, thank you. Here, I got a move so everybody can see. This is a Pioneer card. It's postmarked 2000. It has, the postcard cost 1 cent. The stamp was 1 cent. But there is a major, how you distinguish a Pioneer card. The post office required that only the address could appear on one side. So the message had to be written and obscuring, if you like, the image that's on the other side. So I have a couple more examples of these Pioneer cards. Did that change?
Yeah.
It did.
All right. And there's the third one. That's 1901. But then an explosion took place. And that was called an undivided back. That's the way to describe the format, if you like, of the card. But all that changed in the early 1900s, and an explosion took place. And there were millions of cards published and printed. Most families would have somewhere in the house would have a postcard album. And the craze, it became almost a craze. And a lot of the cards were predictably, well, there's another Pioneer card. And that's an example of a commercial card with illustrated of the Windsor Station dining room, and then the commercial use with the financial statement of the company. Now, we start to get into what we now recognize as everyday postcards, and the topics that they cover is absolutely enormous. This is a collection in front of the old, it's the hotel, I forget, with the Windsor Hotel on Peel Street, facing Dominion Square. And there's a tourist wheeled cart, but it's impossible for me to tell you how many different subjects are covered by postcards. I'm just going to rhyme off a few. Ships, railways, stations, flags. As you can see, I made an exhibit of the Canadian flag on postcards here. In 1996, which is now close to 30 years ago, I'm going to talk a little bit more, but at the Toronto Postcard Show, this exhibit won Best in Show, so I've preserved it. And the other thing I want to just note for you that is quite astonishing, postcards come in a general category of ephemera, and I'm not sure if that term is something you're used to or you're aware of, but it meant objects of artistic value, of interest, but it's disposable. It's supposed to have a very short life. And yet, you have postcards here that are well over 100 years old but are in pristine condition. Now, that's, I just sold a postcard, and I had it for a long time, a Courrier de Bois or something, and it's the format of that is a photograph. And what happened was that as postcards became more and more popular, little photographers that existed in small towns and in big cities, and their job was really to photograph weddings and high school graduations and that sort of thing, started taking local shots. And some of the more valuable postcards today are what are called real photos, done by a photographer, printed on a photographic paper. And the quality of the images, in many cases, is truly outstanding. There are many municipalities, big and small, where some of the best local records are in the form of real photo cards.
Tell me which button.
Yeah.
Is this one here? This one?
Yeah,
This one?
that's one, yeah. That's perfect.
Just give me the high one.
That's another real photo of a church that I was in near my country place, where I was involved in the restoration, so I've included it in this presentation. Now, down in the east end of Montreal, there was something called Dominion Park. It's like an early Belmont Park, and believe it or not, it's in the area where the Red Path refinery is now. And I have a collection of about 75 cards of Dominion Park. This is, I think, the Montreal General Hospital nurses. Anybody relate to that?
That's at the old general.
What?
That's at the old general.
Yes.
Rochester.
Don't you like the nurses' uniforms?
All the buttons.
Great for some.
What year was that?
The card is on the right, and it wasn't supposedly used, so I can't be sure. No,
Burlesque girls.
that doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, let's keep on going here. Now, there's another whole category of taking quality artwork and converting it into postcards, and there are some beautiful shots. Those are summer shots, and they're little pieces of beauty that were often regularly available. Let's try one more on this.
On the one on the right, John, there's writing on either side of the
Yeah.
wall. That's the way it worked?
Well, no, there wasn't. This is in the divided back era, so you could have put a message on the back too.
If the stamp is
Well, that's true. So because it was used that way, I don't know, the address is on the other side. Next, this is the equivalent of winter postcards, winter signed artist cards. And you can see the name of the artist appears on I think on all three.
Looks like Northern Rock.
Now, another surprise for you. We think of a postcard as being a 4x6 piece of paper that's being around. So let's have a look at different materials that were used to make postcards. This is a birch bark postcard
Wow.
that survived the mails. You couldn't do that today.
So what was on the other side?
It doesn't matter. No, seriously, that's a very good question because people often ask that. It's very rare that the message side has any collector or sociological interest. Next, Glenn.
Wow.
This is well, in World War I, mail was very important to get your greetings to people at the front and to get some message back. And there was a whole industry made to make it's called a woven, silk woven card. And there's a little pocket in it. You'll be able to lift that up and put a message inside the pocket. Now, I'm sorry, I jumped the gun, because this is now looking at different materials that were used. So on the top, we have a leather postcard on the left, and on the right, it's a paper postcard with a photo attached to it, embossed on it. Next. That's cork on the upper left, as you can see. And the lower right is a very slender piece of wood with an image on it.
Wow.
Again, a photo image on it.
Have these been used, have been mailed, or they just been supplied?
I can't tell. I can't tell. The upper left one is aluminum. The right-hand side is copper. The upper left is a jigsaw puzzle. You can, the recipient would break it. The concept would break it apart, and then have the pleasure of putting it back together.
Lake Louise.
And the one on the right is a photograph record.
Wow.
Pasted on the face of it.
Okay.
I've never played it. Now, curiosity, I don't really remember what's going to come up here. Oh, this is one of my all-time favorites. It's a postcard that's made in the shape of a baggage tag. And it was sent by Edgar from somewhere in the States, sent to St. John, New Brunswick, to I can't remember your first name, somebody Purdy. And the message is, I'd like to be a baggage tag with nothing else to do but dangle from a steamer trunk and tag along with you.
Oh.
That was actually used in an article in the Montreal Gazette because for one of the postcard shows. And the copy of the article is on the table up here. There's other stuff up here too that you can take a look at. All right, now we're into my favorite area, and this is mechanical postcards. Postcards with moving parts. Okay? This is a calendar, and there's a wheel so that you can change the day and the time.
Okay.
Okay? It's a curiosity. Oh, and the date is in the middle too, so there's 3 wheels
Okay.
behind this.
These would be mailed?
Certainly, I can't tell you for sure whether these should be mailed or not, but they were intended to be mailed. That was the concept. This is one of my all-time favorites. I have too many. If you look at the one on the left, it looks like it's an ordinary card. It says, "Ask the moon who is the only girl I love," and there's a moon showing. You push the moon down, and it says, "You and only you."
I'm gonna start crying.
I
Tearing up. I can't
when
take
there were
it.
more ladies in the audience, and I can almost hear the response. This is another mechanical card. On the left-hand side is, if you can see where the device is here. It says Xmas Joy, and you pull it, and it says "Be yours." Oh, this is just for amusement. This is a birthing room. It doesn't identify which is a French hospital. Doesn't tell you which. But can you imagine seeing that on a postcard today?
Is that a pretty
Yes. Yes, it's a photo card, in fact.
No, it's a delivery. It's a delivery.
So good.
Sell that cushion.
A special delivery. All right, let's keep going here. Again, curiosities. The one on the left, it's a 1908 postcard with a little calendar attached to it. The one on the right is a souvenir from Salt Lake City, Utah, with a sample of salt from Salt Lake City. Oh, go. All right, let me just do those. I'll do those two, and I have other stories to tell you. One more.
Keep going?
No, yeah. And finally, this is a more seedy side of the postcard life, as you might know. The one on the left, it's a bilingual card, probably dates from the 1940s. And as you can see, that it's a couple in a nightclub, and the photographer says, "Not to take your picture, sir, only $1." And the one on the right is even a little bit more racy here. This student knocking on the door, and the girl opens it, says, "Come right in. I'm working my way through school too." All right, that's it for the illustrations, but I have a couple more stories. I guess there's time.
Lots of time.
I was a dealer for exactly 20 years, from 1985 to 2005. I only did about 3 or 4 shows a year, and I did it from an 8-foot table, almost like this. I would have 15,000 postcards for sale. I was one of the smaller dealers. Gary and I were at a show in Toronto. It was the biggest show in Canada. And there were dealers with over 100,000 cards. There would have been over 1 million cards in that room. Okay, now, on an average show, from my little 8-foot table, once I got in the hang of it, thought I knew what I was doing, I was in an 8-hour show on an 8-hour table, I would take in about $1,000. It's pretty good for a part-time job. What do you think I did with $1,000?
A lot more cards.
Buy more postcards.
For sure.
You got it. And postcard shows the community is surprisingly large. The Toronto Postcard Club, with the largest in Canada, I think has 350 members. And the show in Toronto a month ago was really very well attended. There's a Quebec Postcard Club that it used to have at least 150 or more members. They too have a show in Montreal in June. It's at Saint Jean de Brébeuf College. It's been there for 20 years. But if you're not really into postcards, I have a better recommendation for you than going to a postcard show. Because in a postcard show, everything's kind of hidden. If you want to have fun, go to a collector's show. I went to a collector's show in Ottawa 2 weeks ago, and it is fascinating. Most of the dealers now are old guys like me, but it's fascinating, the variety of stuff. Everything from, of course, from magazines to, I'm at a loss here. In fact, I have all this stuff.
Go on.
I'll keep on going. I'll come back. I have the now. License plates, of course. Where is it? No, it's not that one. It's a small. No, it's the other. There we go. Okay. Hockey and baseball cards, comics, marbles, milk bottle caps, Coke bottles, buttons, matchboxes. I'm going to come back to matchboxes to end up here. Oh, this is one that you, many of you will remember, swizzle sticks.
Yes.
Every time you went through a nightclub, mind you, they're now made of plastic, so they're probably prohibited. But it was a fun collectible. Well, license plates I mentioned, autographs. Anyway, the range of collectibles is really astonishing. There is one collectible, there's one area where there is a collectible show every 6 months or so. It's on Tax Road Boulevard in Longueuil. And it's going to cost you an admission of maybe $5 or $10, but you can have a very pleasant time just walking up and down and admiring all the stuff that you remember.
So John, what's that called? Collectible show?
Yeah. If you go on the internet,
Collector.
look for all collectible show, you will find.
John, can I ask you, what was the trigger for you? Why did you